Hello. A second, please. All right, we are live. I'm going to quickly share this, and then I'm right with you. Could you please share this video with anyone who might be interested in Heidegger? That would be fantastic. Okay, welcome everyone to my Sunday night live stream on my course on Heidegger. Feel free to share the stream as it's occurring with anyone you think might be interested in Heidegger. I'll wait maybe a bit more so that a few more people can come in. And if you have questions specifically on Heidegger or on this course, please let me know. I'll mention it now and I'll mention it again in a bit. That enrollment is closing now. So if you want to enroll, you have to enroll now. And if you want to participate in the seminars, they begin next week, Sunday at 6 p.m. UK time. So that gives you a week to prepare. We have our first introductory meeting. To anyone here, cheers. Salute, chin chin. Okay, so let's see. Let's get maybe a few more in. And if you have any questions on Heidegger or on the course now, let me know in the chat. And I'll try and respond as best as I can. So maybe because this is now the second time I'm teaching this specific course, it's a good idea to just go over a few of the technical details and what the course will look like to anyone who maybe has never taken a course online and wants to understand what it's about. But I'll begin with reading a quote from Heidegger, from the contributions, die Beiträge zur Philosophie, which perhaps tells us something about the mood, the attunement in which Heidegger writes and what his experience is. Here's the quote: "The sudden extinguishing of the great fire. This leaves behind something which is neither day nor night, which no one grasps, and in which humans, having come to the end, still bustle about so as to benumb themselves with the products of their machinations, pretending such products are made for all eternity, perhaps for that, and so forth, which is neither day nor night." So this is Heidegger in the contributions. And I have argued elsewhere in the video that's also on my channel that for Heidegger, the mood of this epoch, the fundamental attunement, is boredom and Langeweile, which could also be understood as time stretching itself out, or time itself becoming a phenomenon, time itself becoming an issue for this time. And it is an epoch at best, an epoch, where being withholds itself in a way that there must be born an Übergang, a going over and beyond towards another initiation. because we have what has exhausted itself is what is now becoming visible as the first beginning or the first initiation, the first onset, the first setting in of thought in Greek philosophy. Now, of course, historiographical representation then will go into suggestions about, but something must have been before the Greeks. And obviously, yes. But this way of thinking, which has sustained the Occident, that's Greek. And that is exhausting itself. And it's exhausting itself in the machinations and the wonders of technology. Heidegger does not think that there is a disenchantment of the world. Quite the opposite. There's an enchantment of the world through the wonders of technology. And just maybe briefly to some of you know, maybe some don't. My PhD is on Heidegger. I've written a book on Heidegger, which was published this year by Springer. It's this one, Heidegger on Death and Being, an answer to the question of being. Cheers, by the way. And the book itself, I began writing in 2013 when I wanted to find out what Heidegger means when he says that death is the mountain range of being, or the gathering or the concentration of concealment, of that which self conceals. And we get into this in a bit. So my course is open for enrollment now, by the way. I'll say this now, but I think the seminars will be over Zoom. So I'll be sitting here. You'll be joining in over Zoom. I'll lead the seminars. We'll sit here together. We'll drink some wine, as a good symposium should include wine drinking. That's what it means to drink together. And then we discuss Heidegger, and you discuss amongst yourselves in breakout sessions what's going on. So maybe I'll say a bit about what the course is actually on before I jump too deeply into Heidegger. And then I'll show you what it will be like to study in just a very technical, practical sense, what it is that we actually do. And you'll find a link to enroll down below. Enrollment is closing today, so make sure to enroll if you want to join in. There are 2 vouchers left to get $100 off if you want to do that now. I'll talk just about the technical side of everything. Sorry, just about, because I think I've gotten so many emails from people who have never taken a course online and want to make sure they understand everything. And maybe I'm not the best communicator. I'm too poetic, I suppose. So here, I'll try and say as best as I can what the course is like. So I'm going to share my screen, which I hope works. So if you click on the link down below, which I think you can now see, my Chrome website. And here, this is the site that leads you to. So you scroll down, there's a course description, then it tells you the course structure. There will be 2 introductory lectures. So this is, what we'll do is there will be 2 introductory lectures and 1 lecture, 1 seminar on the introduction, where we just consider the project and the methodology of being in time and why death is pivotal for Heidegger's project. In the first full lecture, we'll talk about Dasein, exact temporality, and being towards death. By the way, Sein zum Tode in German, zum Tode, does not really mean towards. It actually means being with. So maybe a better translation would be being with death, or being at death, being with death. In the second lecture, we'll jump into the Ereignis. We leap into the Ereignis, this realm of emergence. In the third lecture, we consider technology, death, and framing. And in the fourth lecture, poetic language. So just on the technical side of it, if you're here, you see the seminar dates if you want to enroll in the seminars, but I'll go over what kind of tiers there are. So if you want to study this on your own time, because you don't have time to join the seminars, you can enroll now. You get 5, actually it's 6 lectures, it's more than 5, because I've added a 6th one. I'm actually going to add a 7th one in this coming week. So you get access to this whole material, and it's marketing lingo, but that's what they call lifetime access. So that means you can access this anytime. You do it in any time span that you have, that you have the leisure to do. And whenever I add something to the course over the next years, you have access to it also. So you pay this once, you enroll once, but when I teach this course again next year and I add another lecture or change another lecture, you get access to that as well. And so just to make this very clear, you don't have to pay anything anymore. It's a one sign up for all eternity, as it were. But that's it if you want to just study on your own time. If you want to take seminars with me, which I lead, which begin next, let's go back up, which begin next week, July. 4th of July is the first time. That's when you sign up for this middle tier. So we meet over Zoom, you come prepared to the seminars, then we have breakout sessions where you meet other people from the seminar, you have discussions with them for about an hour, and then you come back in. These are very lively, and I'm hearing that actually I should probably add another one. I used to do 2 sessions, but now I might add a 3rd session because they're so generative and things are emerging for people. So I'd like to perhaps add another one. So we'll meet for 6 or 7 times. The 7th one is the pro seminar. So that's the middle tier. And then there's always a few people, and I've got only 2 left on this one because I already have a few people enrolled in this one. This is for anyone who's serious about their own project when it comes to Heidegger. So if you want to if you're actually writing a book on Heidegger, you're writing an essay on Heidegger, or you want to really delve into reading a certain text, and I've done it with a couple of people over the years, this is the right tier for you. So this is lectures, seminars, and private tutorials with me one-on-one over Zoom when we meet for 6 times. So that's the highest tier. All right, so I'm back now, I think, in the screen. I hope that you can see me again. If you know anyone who might be interested, then perhaps you could share it with anyone else who might be interested as well. But it's important that if you want to enroll, especially for the seminars, you should do so now, because enrollment is closing effectively today. So I'd like to maybe discuss a bit more on Heidegger and the Heideggerian project, what it is, and why Heidegger has to think, for example, being and time together, and also what the Ereignis is, concealment, aletheia. It's, and by the way, so as you can hear, I'm German. I've lived abroad for many years, but I come at this through language. So we will be reading Heidegger if you know German, you can read Heidegger, of course, in German. If you don't know German, you will probably read Heidegger in your mother tongue, be that English, Italian, French, Romanian, Hungarian, whatever. I would recommend you read it in your mother tongue, because we will try and translate it. There's so much more that we can find in retranslating and translating again. And there's so much that emerges. There was a gentleman who is in the course, his name is Jack, so I mentioned to him that I don't like the translation of Seinsgeschichte as history of being. And I mentioned to him that someone else had told me that perhaps the tidings of being, that die Kunde des Seins, the tiding, because in tide you have the word to be tied, the verb, right, das Geschehen, which Heidegger is not. So, but by the way, so it could also mean layers, but the layers of being, das Geschicht, das Schichten, the layers of being could also be in there. But then Jack alerted me to the word the abidings of being. And here we have a beautiful association with a way of understanding Wesen, which perhaps is not essence in Heidegger, actually is not at all essence, but is that which abides. Whereas I like to translate Wesen, the realm, especially when it comes to technology. I translate Wesen as the realm of techniques. So it's not at all about things like this microphone or this thing here. No, it's about a certain way in which being lets beings appear. That's Ge-Stell. And it is our way of responding to the Ereignis, to this realm, this place of emergence, that things emerge in a certain way. For example, in our time as standing reserve. So as you can hear, one of the main focuses will be on technology, on poetry, as a possibility of articulating an exit. Ultimately, what I really would like this course to be, is for you to be able to articulate for yourself, not an escape, not an exit, but a way out of techniques as the exclusive or seemingly exclusive domain of our epoch. Which doesn't mean to tear down technological tools, no, but that the world be able to light up again, not as a pure standing reserve, but in its multidimensionality and its poetry that is not just covered over, but eradicated, which also eradicates our humanness, I would think. So we'll try, and of course, so just I usually I have a, maybe it's a good habit, maybe it's not a bad habit, I don't know. I know ancient Greek. I studied ancient, I took, so when I went to gymnasium, Liceo Classico, as they call it on the continent, I took ancient Greek, and not just for a couple of years, but for 4 or 5 years. There's actually a video on my channel where I sing in ancient Greek because I musicalized a poem by Achillochos. So we will also consider, of course, the ancient Greek. You don't need to know ancient Greek, but we will try and light up these words that Heidegger has the audacity to retranslate again after 2 millennia, or 1 millennia if you consider the scholastics, of this not happening. We live effectively in the world of the scholastics because they translated, and of course of the Romans, because they translated the Greek into Latin without having made the same experience in thought. So we live in the world of simulacra, and not just, as Baudrillard thinks, for the past 100 years, but if you trust Heidegger, for the past 1,000 or 1,000 years at least, and through language. So what Heidegger is trying to do, and he's doing this in the German as well as in the Greek, is to break open the original, not the original meanings, no, that would be wrong, that would be etymological, but to show the ramification of words and what they disclose about being historical dimensions, which as layers upon layers upon layers, in that multidimensionality in which we are, how they weave through us. And there's a beautiful quote from Nietzsche, which very often, I don't know whether it's been honestly been picked up on enough. And as maybe some of you who might follow this channel closely, maybe some of you don't, I've renamed the channel Philosophy of the Future, and I will say something about this soon, not tonight. This is not to say that I'm moving away from the ideal of the classical. That's certainly not the case. that ideal must be kept alive, but it must be kept alive. I am tired of this antiquarian, backward-looking nonsense where nothing is, well, we know everything about every single epoch, and this historiographical, antiquarian representationalism, but we are incapable of building something new and something that is specifically our own in this century. I don't think we've even awoken to the fact that this is the 21st century. We fight ideological battles of the 20th century, 19th century, to be honest, without any connection to our genuine history, and without any connection to our genuine future, that we're not even trying to, that we try to technologically solve, because apparently the world is coming to an end. Did you know? We're running out of oil and we're running out of this and that and the other all the time, But what this indicates is that the future has already closed. And this, but two quotes from Nietzsche, from Zarathustra. First, too far into the future did I fly. Dread fell upon me. And here's the other one, which speaks already. From what Heidegger will have to call Ekstasis, Inständigkeit and Ausständigkeit of time. Here's Nietzsche again. And even when you abstain from weaves at the web of all future humanity, even your nothing is a spider web, and a spider that lives of the blood of the future. It lives of the blood of the future. What occurs and what doesn't occur still weaves and strives through what is and what is not. And what is not also carries some weight on what is, obviously. So that's some of the questions that we'll delve into in the course, the question of time. By the way, in a popular sense, if you're interested in this in a film, in two films actually that I could recommend on time, it's Arrival and Interstellar. And it is striking, especially in Arrival more than in Interstellar, that it is through language, a different language, that the future is beginning to be remembered as what has already occurred. It's through language. A certain different language, a non-linear poetic language. So, the course, just in a very dry manner, the course will begin on the project of being in time and the methodology of being in time. And also the question why death is pivotal for Heidegger from the beginning. He actually says, in response to Descartes in 1925, sum moribundus, I am insofar as I am towards my death, and only insofar as I am towards and with my death does my being have sense, orientation, and meaning. It needs this limit, this horizon towards which I am pushed. So from the beginning, Heidegger responds to Descartes and also wants to take the human being, to transform what it means to be human out of subjectivity and subjectivism, where the human being becomes the ground for everything that is in its objectivity. If you read Kant, then you will know. So, from the beginning, a response to Descartes, and it occurs in death. It is in death that the subject splinters and evaporates, because it knows no death. It knows no this ultimate finitude. It doesn't know. It knows finitude, of course, and it, for Kant and Fichte especially, but not this kind of full fleshed out death that pushes Dasein back out into the world. So this is the introduction. In the second lecture, and then of course also the second seminar, we will discuss ecstatic time, Dasein's understanding of being as possibility, and Dasein's being towards death, or being with death as well. So, we should, then we move on into the Ereignis, which is not the event of appropriation. It is a certain event, it has an event character, if you like, but it is specifically in Heidegger's essays, it's the self-eliciting center. It is a realm, an area in which being and the human being meet and encounter one another. Metaphysics, Ereignis, you could say, is the element of metaphysics. It is that to which metaphysics has responded. And the so-called epochs of being are not clear-cut historiographical rubrics, of just, this is how they understood being here and there. No, they are the self-retainments of being, epechein in the Greek, ways in which being withholds itself. And to this withholding, metaphysics responds in a certain way so as to hold on to being as beingness. For example, as the ens perfectum in God, the perfect being. Or today, in the sciences, and the beingness of the human being as the genetic code, where we are DNA and perhaps some of it RNA, and that can be manipulated and played around with, and we can replace the immune system with some other system that we inject, because we can do anything in our timeless beingness of beings, can't we? We are perfectly capable of manipulating everything with unforeseen consequences, of course. But that's perhaps sometimes a banquet that some will have to attend, because they don't rise to the occasion of asking a question for once in their life. So this conflation also of truth with absolute certainty is also at the core of Heidegger's critique, if you like, of modernity. Heidegger's question at the core is how modernity can be overcome in such a way that it doesn't destroy access to that which has been, to antiquity also, to the old. For another name for being is the old, to enenai, as Aristotle says, that which was being. Perhaps we should understand Aristotle's Metaphysica, the metaphysics, not as a history of philosophy up until this point. That would be a bit ridiculous, but no, as a first response to that which Heidegger then will come to call Ereignis. This, what is not a summary by Aristotle, what Aristotle is trying to get to is being. And the ways of responding to that which is titon. What? Being. Titon. So, so this is then the Ereignis will be dealing with the abyss, the Abgrund, the off-ground, the withdrawing ground. So we shouldn't say abyss, perhaps because the abyss gives us an image that we can imagine. It's the off-ground, the withdrawing ground, which again is accessible to think, or we are allowed to think through death. Because it is with death that we let go of beings, and in letting go of beings, we let them be. To let beings be. And with this in the background, this is the best, or maybe the only way, to understand what Heidegger has to say about technology. No one can understand Heidegger's essays on technology and the fourfold and poetic language, etc., without at least some basic access and understanding of the Ereignis. It's completely impossible. It's gone. So it doesn't. So when you have some commentators who come at this and this is just our way of understanding being. No, we don't understand anything. And this is no longer about Dasein's understanding of being. This is being itself unfolding in one of its fissuring dimensions, of which we are the playwork, as Heidegger says, the toys almost, you could say. A game in which we are at stake, and where the seeming exclusivity of it, right? And by the way, one of the ways in which Ge-Stell operates is mirroring. Think about that, mirroring. Maybe we should also think about why reflection is so important for the philosophers of subjectivity and self-reflection. Mirroring, Vorspiegelung in German, is one of the ways in which representation gains power in the epoch of the Ge-Stell. And even just as much as asking, well, what is technology? As Heidegger was attacked, gave people headaches as he was attacked. Why do you ask what technology is? How dare you? That should tell you something. So this, in the third lecture and seminar, I'll say the fourth actually, but it's the third full one, it will be on technology and technology. We will then have an additional seminar by, I have a teaching assistant for this one called Lou, and he will teach a seminar on technology, or technical language more specifically, and poetic traditional language. And what it is that is withdrawing in an overtly informational, communicational language. And in the final seminar, we will then discuss poetry, poetic language. Heidegger's poets, the danger of language, poets like Rilke and Hölderlin, Stefan George, Trakel, as well as Osip Mandelstam, who's a Russian writer who had much to say. One of the most beautiful quotes from him from the, I think from the Travel to Armenia, where he says, so we say the word sun, and we've said it so often that we do not think about it anymore. But when we say the word sun, it's not just an automatism. We don't just throw a signifier at some object. We take a journey to the sun itself in saying the sun. And it is the poet, or it is the poem, that can awaken us again in the middle of the word to such a journey. So we try to get into this free vibration of thought. And it is here, I think, that something can be generated that shows us a way out. Because ultimately, there's always an outside. Have you noticed? There's always an outside. Even in the oldest myth of the cave, I mean, the oldest myth of this kind of total enclosement or enclosing of the world in Plato's so-called analogy of the cave, as we benignly call it. It's got nothing to do with just a benign analogy on how to educate people about the forms. No. What Plato is telling you, screaming through the eons, is that we are trapped in shadows. And even those who might be the most critical, rational thinkers, most awake, etc., might be completely trapped in shadows. I even think that sometimes what Plato is telling us here is that it is the philosophers down there. It's the philosopher who's officially the one who's freed. But it might actually also be that philosophy itself can turn into those, or into that program that just looks at shadows and memorizes shadows. There's no guarantee that just by slapping the label philosophy on your door that you're any better or do you have any more access to what's true and what's not? Because you must always be faced with the off ground in order to, or pain, suffering, stepping out into the blinding light, not become a last man, as Nietzsche says. So this is just an overview of the course. So if you want to enroll, and maybe I should show you this one now. Okay, where is it? Share screen. All right. So if you are, so I want to show you this because yeah, so you should be able to see this now. If you follow the link down below, you can enroll in the course, enrollment for which is closing very soon. And if you have any questions specifically on the course, let me know in the chat. But if you follow the link now, you will get to this page and you can scroll down and you can follow any of these 3 links tiers here. So the first one is just the lecture materials to which you will have access for as long as this website will go. Then the second one is for the seminars. Seminars start next week, Sunday, 6 p.m. UK time. And then the highest tier is with 6 private tutorials with me over Zoom. We will come together to discuss your reading or writing of Heidegger in greater detail. So if you click here, you click enroll in course, it'll show you the price with the VAT wherever you are. I'm in the UK, so this is what I would have to pay in VAT. So this is the course enrollment. And if you then actually enroll, this is what the course looks like. So you will be, so this is what the course looks like, course curriculum. For example, you click on introductory lectures. Here's the first one. It'll show you the price with the VAT wherever you are. I'm in the UK. Sorry. So you can, that's a bit difficult. So if we are in the introductory lecture, this is it. This is an overview over the first 7 paragraphs of Being in Time, which will be for not just the seminars on being in time and Dasein. Yeah. So here you can see what the course actually looks like. If you scroll down, there's the second introductory lecture. Then here is the text for one of the lectures. This is the full lecture. So by the way, Aristotle's so these are the recordings of the seminars from last year. So you see what that would actually look like when we then meet over Zoom and discuss Heidegger together. This is the second lecture here. And you get the text for the text excerpts for educational purposes, for every reading for every week, and the poem of the world, that's the last one. Yeah, on I'm actually going to record a second lecture for this one for the last lecture. I'll leave this one in there, but Heidegger on language is so important that I want to give you a bit more than just this here. So you'll be able to have a second one which focuses specifically on Heidegger's poets and language as the most dangerous good. So if you have questions on this course specifically, let me know in the chat. If you want to enroll, then you should use this link that I'm going to share now. It's also down below in the description. So if you know anyone who wants to study Heidegger, let them know. That would be fantastic. And because so maybe there's something else that I should mention is I'm a self-employed philosopher, believe it or not. And this is now the second year I'm doing this. I'm building my own online academy with everything I was hoping to find inside academia, but didn't. Wasn't able to. Otium cum dignitate is the leitmotif. There are two leitmotifs for the seminars, for the entire enterprise. One of them is Cicero's Otium cum dignitate, leisure with dignity. And the second one is Friedrich Schelling's All rules for learning are summed up in this one: learn only in order to create. This is something that Schelling said in a lecture course on university studies at a university 200 years ago. We should hope that this perhaps one day return again to the universities. It might not. As long as it doesn't, we are doing this outside. I'm one of the few people who do this. Might I say that perhaps, forgive me if this sounds arrogant, but I think I'm the only one who does this, specifically what I'm doing. I'm writing original lecture courses in the traditional way, is what professors used to do, and then present them, and then we discuss them in seminars. So over time, I've taught a course on Heidegger on technology. That was last year in January. Then a course on leisure with dignity, which is on Cicero, Nietzsche, Plato, Aristotle, Humboldt, Heidegger, Bertrand Russell, of all people, and Joseph Pieper, on why leisure or muse scolaire is the basis, the foundation of civilization, of Occidental civilization. And of course, we've completely lost scolaire, this measure of sufficiency. Without scolaire, no ethos, no dwelling ground for mortals. And without ethos, no ethics. You can have ethics departments as much as you want, but they will just be PowerPoint presentations and Excel sheets. So that was the second course. Then I taught Heidegger, then Nietzsche, and I wrote a book on Nietzsche, basically, which I will self-publish towards the end of the year when I teach the course again. Then I taught a seminar course on the early Greek thinkers, on Parmenides, Heraclitus, Empedocles, Anaxagoras, Anaximander, and Thales. That was in February. And over January, February, March, April, I wrote another short book on German idealism, which then I taught. So as I said to Adam Robert in one of our conversations, it's ironic that what I do is what used to be done when you were still allowed to teach freely at university without PowerPoint presentations. You write a book and you present it in lectures meaning you read to listeners, and then we discuss it in seminars. So this is what, and this is why I'm saying, and perhaps you forgive me if it sounds arrogant, that I think I'm the only one who specifically does this in this specific manner, that I write original lectures where I don't just go into what Heidegger might mean with this or Nietzsche might mean with this, but no, I want these texts to speak to us today. And perhaps this is why, as one of the participants once said, the seminars can have psychedelic effects on you, so be careful. This is on a Sunday. And I'm saying that I might be the only one. I mean, there are other people, many others, who do online courses or who offer online courses, but I'm the one pushing ahead and pulling the weight and building it myself, while I'm also writing. So I'm reading the business side of it, but I'm also writing and reading and teaching and discussing with people, while at the same time providing free in-depth philosophy lectures on my YouTube channel. And I've scrapped my Patreon account and all this stuff because the best way to support, I think, and also this is where this should be going, is when you sign up for a course, you support the work on the channel. I can only continue doing this when I can when I can offer the courses. Then I can offer also the free lectures that I will continue to present to rekindle the extinguished fire which Heidegger bemoans, and rightly so bemoans, right? Don't forget, it's what one participant once said is, this is everything university should have been. Because you don't come for a degree. You don't come for a piece of paper. You don't come to gain status or any kind of privilege. You come purely to learn. Maybe to have your whole entire being and existence shattered, which might happen when you read philosophy. That's okay. But you come not for the joy of learning or so, no, because there is something very deeply, profoundly serious and crucial in philosophy. It's where we articulate our being human. And if philosophy fails to do so, well, then as Gomez says, then journalism takes over, but not just journalism, scientism. And the kinds of answers we get, what it means to be human, well, so we will consider, of course, aletheia, right? Phenomenology. Why does Heidegger translate aletheia as unconcealment, and why this ignites his thinking? We delve into a bit of Nietzsche, of Hegel, of German idealism more broadly, the Greeks, especially Plato and Heraclitus, and we will then come to articulate, hopefully, a response to the question of being, which is, of course, always historical. So it is always contextual. And but so that perhaps at some point, in einer gewandelten Wiederkehr, in a transformed recurrence, the old world can alight anew, and the human being is transformed and moved out of subjectivity. So if you want to enroll, I'll show you the screen again. You should now follow the link down below in the description, and you can either choose self-study in any time span that you want. You can do this in 1 day or 1 year or 2 years. It doesn't matter. You have lifetime access. And if I add another video when I teach this course again, if I teach this course again, I might not, who knows. But if I do, then you will get access to it. And so there's a growing course library. If you want to have live seminars with me, where I can respond to your questions, but also where you meet others, right? So you won't be alone. You'll be reading the text maybe that you've always been meaning to read, like Being in Time, like the question concerning technology. This is the time now to read these texts, or at least parts of them, and then come in a group, meet others, join a reading group, etc., etc. Do the work, show up, and learn in a group with others. And if you have a serious creative project, or you want to really delve deep into Heidegger, then you get the highest tier with 6 private tutorials, 1 hour each, with me. And this, as I said before, is what the course looks like on the inside. So you get the lectures here. There's the MP3 of them as well. Sorry if this starts playing again. Here I am. On to the first. And so there's MP3s, there's videos, there's the lecture text that you can download, so you can take notes on them while you study this in your own time. Here is the lecture on the Ereignis. And we've got here, this is the full second lecture, the full text that you can download. There will be study questions. And then what the, so here's, if you click on Enroll now, you go to this page, you click on Enroll. And once you click here, you just fill this all in and send it off. And I see you next week, Sunday. What the seminars are like, maybe I should mention this also, a bit more detail. In the seminar, we meet. There will be anywhere between 15 to 30 people, depending. And we come together. I open the session with a short introduction. You will have either read Heidegger or you will have listened to the lecture. That should be enough. It depends on how you want to learn. So you will come in with, ways prepared, different ways of preparation. Then after a short introduction, I send you off into breakout sessions, about 3 to 4 people each. And then you discuss the questions. So then you come back and then we have a general discussion for another hour, an hour and a half, depending on how everything goes. And you will be, I think, honestly, I think you'd be amazed of what it is that occurs during these sessions. I remember taking about 30 pages of notes during our seminar on Parmenides in the darkness of February. But I was just listening to what the students, I like to call you participants and not really students, were, because you have sometimes people who did study philosophy when they were younger, or who wanted to study philosophy, people from finance, from Silicon Valley, so in tech, people in medicine, people who are psychiatrists, etc., lawyers. They come in from different time zones. We meet in this weird place that's called Zoom. And then something, though, emerges. And I think this, perhaps, I might be completely wrong, but Heidegger is always about, he's not against technology, as he says, but a way of finding a free relationship with technology. Yeah. So how can we establish a free relationship with technology? And I think not just being a consumer, but by coming in and beginning to participate, you're already turning around something. That sounds perhaps ridiculously simple. Maybe it's completely wrong, but maybe it's not. Maybe it is really in the first step that easy, is that we are not just at the mercy of algorithms, etc., but that we begin to play around with it also and step in and become participants rather than just consumers. Participants and writers and ardent readers and listeners and speakers, and not just watchers, spectators, etc. So, here's a question. Okay, so here's one question that I think I can answer on the spot. Azad asks, I don't know if this makes sense, but is there a difference between concealment of earth? Heidegger uses a specific example of how a rock burden withdraws and world concealment. What's the relationship between world and earth? So this is very good. There is a difference, and I would like to try and get into it. So earth is mentioned for the first time publicly by Heidegger in the origin of the work of art. Well, earth specifically, as you say, as Assad says, is concealment. And world is opening up. And there's a strife between world and earth. World is human and earth is not human. And the artwork, the true artwork, for example, the Greek temple or the Greek statue of a god, is the exemplification of this strife between earth and world. And is the artwork that spans open the historical dimension for a people, as he says. But it is quite striking that Heidegger here, as you will notice in the text, is only looking back. So he doesn't, he speaks of, yes, he does mention Van Gogh. But I think the strongest example is perhaps the temple, because it is in the temple, so the stone, the earth, why is this still concealed? Well, because the stone itself retains something of its stoneness that no longer shines through in the temple. The stone itself, the stone of say a statue of Apollo, conceals itself. It's beginning to be concealed, but it is still there, and it is especially visible when the temple, for example, begins to crumble, when the world begins to fade, and there is only a shimmering, a very mild, ever weaker echo of a certain historical world, of a people that no longer is. That's when this, what was self-concealing, the stone, is beginning to shine forth evermore, but in strife still with world, even with just the echo of a world. And it is when Athens forgets itself, Athenes memorata, as you could say in Italian, smemorare, and Athens that has forgotten itself, that's when the Acropolis is turned into a warehouse, which they effectively did when they forgot that Athens was once the home of Plato. But so this kind of moving, so this is this concealment, you could say, in the artwork essay. But then there's Verbergung, there is die Lichtung für das sich verbergen. And so Heidegger is in the artwork essay, he's on the path to this later, much more radical thought, which is thought itself. Its thinking itself is the clearing for self-concealment. They collapse into each other. And that's different. So what Heidegger is trying to do in the artwork essay to illustrate this is to give ontic examples of an ontological goings on. But in the more radical thought of the clearing for self-concealment, this goes well beyond just the strife of earth and world. It's thinking itself that is always in a clearing for self-concealing. It's thinking itself that unfolds by the law of aletheia. So there is a most fundamental sense, if you like, this is a bit of a representational language, but still of concealment, which is deeper, profounder than the strife between earth and world. This is a very good question, Assad, and I would hope to discuss this more with you and others in the seminars. So, enrollment closing soon. The link is down there below in the description of the video. So if you want to enroll now, do it. If you have a question, leave a comment. I will respond. A question on the course. I mean, if you have a question right now, just put it in the chat and I'm still around. I can answer. So if you have a technical question on the course, that's fine as well. Just let me know. If you know anyone else who wants to study Heidegger, you can enroll. And there are 3 different tiers. First tier, lifetime access. You can enroll now and you can do the course on your own time without seminars if you don't have time to attend the seminars. If you want to sit here with me over Zoom and discuss these texts in more depth, then enroll for the seminars and come in. And we'll start exactly in a week from today on Sunday. And so we'll meet for 7 times. And by the way, I should have mentioned this before, there's a pro seminar where you can present your own talk, or as Taylor did. I always mention Taylor because I was so amazed by it. He played the jazz drums. That's what I mean. We read Parmenides in the early Greek seminar, and we read Parmenides again in a different way outside the textbook definition of Parmenides. What does Parmenides say? Have trust in that which is absent just as much as in that which is present. Parmenides. And that, for Taylor, triggered something, namely, that in jazz drums, there's no way you can write down how to play the jazz drums. No, you must. Just, you can only say swing, play with swing or something like this. So this kind of a swing, right? This swing, this idle swinging and vibrating. That's what we're after here, especially with this course. To think the pure eventuality of our history, of our epoch. To begin to see through concealment what is and what is not. So, seminars are really good to meet others, to meet me, to join a reading group, and to be a little bit forced, perhaps also do the work every week. And then for others, so I've got filmmakers, got someone who worked for David Lynch, for example, who took the Nietzsche course and then took tutorials with me. We've got people who just have the leisure and the time to read and want to read, because finally, after decades of working, they can put in the work and sit down and read a text. That's when you should sign up for the private tutorials. Either you have a creative writing project, you're writing a book, you're writing blog posts on Heidegger, anything in the vicinity of what the course is about. You're working on a film. You are I had a painter last year. One of my best friends is a painter, Sean Burke. I published his book a couple of years ago. Then that's probably the best tier for you. There's going to be 6 hours private tutorials, intense sessions, sitting down with me one-on-one, reading and discussing. I'm also going to give you comments, not feedback. We don't use cybernetic language here, but comments, commentare. What does comment mean? This is one of the commentare. To think with. We are going to be commenting on Heidegger. We are going to think with him or with his thought. And we are going to see how it flips over, how it tides over into this century. And I just see that Philip is here, Philip Nicholas, one of the teachers at Halcyon. Hello, Philip. Good to see you here. And then Matthew Ellison, who I know has already signed up. Thank you very much that you mentioned that you're looking forward to this one. So it's going to be not easy. It's going to be intense, and it's going to be perhaps probably maybe shattering you in your core, which is what it should do. This is what philosophy is there for. I'm certainly not of the opinion that philosophy is just there for the enlightenment of the world, because I don't think that that's really what happens. I think that philosophy is much too dangerous for this. But yes, so we are going to go into ecstatic temporality, and I think time is going to be what is of the most interest. The poetry and technology, that will be the main focuses. And we are coming at this always from language. So we'll go through the German vernacular, try and find translations in English. This is something I'm looking forward to the most, because I'm not an English native speaker, but there are English native speakers in the course, and I'm going to learn a lot from them, not just when it comes to language. I come officially as a teacher, but I leave as a student. So I unofficially come as a student, because I want to learn, I want to understand what it is that I'm trying to say. And as I said before, the irony is that I'm using a different medium, but I'm doing something old. I sit down and I write a book, and I read out the book, and then you come and discuss it with me, for which I'm very grateful, that people have the trust in the work here, and that this is possible. It's remarkable. I wouldn't have thought it possible a couple of years ago, but now it is. So here we are. And so if you have any more questions, I think that Assad did hear the response, so it's good that you stayed around. Thank you very much again for this very good question, Assad. And I'm also happy that I'm glad that you perhaps thought it was a bit insightful. Of course, there's much more to say, right? Because Verbergung is, first of all, it's impossible to translate. When we say Verbergung, it isn't just concealment, because I think concealing has can have, I think, quite negative connotations in English. Verbergung, of course, also in German, but the verb bergen can mean shelter. By the way, the German word aufheben, Hegel's aufheben, sublation in English, is also related in its meaning, at least, by the connotation, also to bergen, as sheltering, safekeeping, safeguarding. And I'll say it again, Heidegger says, der Tod ist das Gebirg des Seins. Death is the concentration of sheltering, harboring, concealing of being. And maybe because we just had Hegel and Philip is in the audience, Philip is the headmaster of Hegelian sciences at Halcyon, and will teach a Hegel course soon. Perhaps the most important difference between the two, and this is not to say that one of them is higher or the other one is lower. No, but for Hegel, history is that which has been thought. For Heidegger, though, in the specific moment in which we are, we must look to what has remained unthought. This is not to say that we read a text and make something up. No. But when you look at the very first page of Being and Time, Delon gar, it is obvious, you thought. He quotes Plato's Sophist. So you think it is obvious what we mean with the word being, but it is not obvious. He quotes Plato 2,500 years later and says, have we at all the capacity still to be perplexed even by this question, which perplexed already Plato and the Sophists? So, this is an unthought thought. It is a thought that keeps echoing on, that, as Nietzsche's Zarathustra says, comes on dove's feet and as such guides the world, but has remained unthought because not picked up by the tradition. And so it is in reading again the Greeks, for example, a lifetime project would be, if anyone's out there, to translate Aristotle again. What a complete disgrace some of the translations of Aristotle are, where Aristotle nowhere speaks of four causes, but they are just introduced because it is convenient to speak of a formal cause, where Aristotle says in Greek, toti enenai, that which was being, where perhaps even that which was being is not even the fitting translation. You see, toti enenai, that which was being, is turned into formal cause. Problem solved, right? But it is the unthought thoughts that weave and strive through the future. To quote Nietzsche again, and even when what you abstain from weaves at the web of all future humanity, even your nothing is a spider web, and a spider that lives off the blood of the future. So, if you want to be swept away by the tidal waves of being, in the event horizons of ecstatic time in this pure vibration, then join me in this very intense path through the fissures of being, through the concealment, the mountain range of being, we follow along Heidegger, this new dark thinker of this new dark age of reason. And we shall see whether there's light. And to quote Hunter S. Thompson, we shall see perhaps also who is tending the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, so enroll now, and I see you next Sunday. And this is the best way to support my work. So thank you very much for everyone who's been helping me build this. There are many of you out there, and I think some of you know who I mean. It's those of you who were there for every single course, who've helped me and trusted me from the beginning. Thank you very much. And I thank everyone else who trusts me now and comes in, wants to do the work purely for their own betterment, should I say. Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to this course starting next Sunday. I can't wait. As you can see, I don't even want to leave now. So it's going to be good. It's going to be very, very, very intense, as it should be. But yeah, so if you know anyone who would be interested, let them know about this course. Share this video, share the link to Enroll. The link to Enroll is down below. I'll see you next week, and we'll have your being shattered, twisted, turned, and then perhaps reframed. But yeah, okay. I'll stop now because, as you can hear, this is going in weird directions. So, chin chin, salute to health. I should like to see you next week. Goodbye. I shall retire.